There comes a moment in the lives of many deeply feeling people when something inside them goes completely silent. It isn't a loud collapse. It's a quiet cessation, the constant, buzzing emotional static of the world around you. The frantic internal monologue trying to manage everyone's feelings, predict their needs, and soften their landings. It just stops. In its place, there is a profound, almost unnerving stillness. An inner quiet you may not have experienced since early childhood. For those who finally reach this state, the first assumption is often that they are broken, that they are depressed, burnt out, or worse, have become cold and uncaring. But the pioneering psychologist Carl Jung, in his decades of work with his most sensitive patients, discovered this was something else entirely. He identified this not as a pathology, but as a profound and necessary transformation, the final stage of an excruciating but ultimately liberating spiritual awakening. And it terrifies everyone who witnesses it, because when an empath finally truly stops caring, they don't become cruel, they become untouchable, and that changes everything. If this feeling of inner silence, or the desperate longing for it, resonates with you, I ask that you stay with us. We are going on a deep dive expedition following the roadmap Jung laid out. We will dismantle the architecture of this sacrifice, understand the cataclysm that forces the change, and explore the psychological toolkit you gain on the other side. By the end of this journey, you will see this state not as an end, but as a hard-won beginning. You will have a new language for your experience, a powerful reframe for your pain, and the unshakable permission to embrace the sovereign power that awaits you. Before the silence, there is the noise, a lifetime of noise. To understand why an empath stops caring, we must first honor the crushing weight of what they have carried. Jung observed that these highly sensitive individuals function as the emotional shock absorbers for their entire social systems. Their nervous system acts as an open receiver, tuning into the psychological frequency of every single person in the room. Think about your own life, the texture of your experiences. Have you ever walked into a room where people were smiling, but you felt a thick, unspoken tension in the air, and your body immediately tensed up, preparing to mediate or diffuse a conflict no one else would even acknowledge? That is the work of a shock absorber. Ask yourself, have your family gatherings felt less like celebrations and more like shifts you had to work? Managing a parent's anxieties, a sibling's jealousy, and the fragile ego of an in-law, all while keeping a serene smile on your face? In your friendships, do you find you are the designated crisis hotline? The one who receives the 2 a.m. texts, who listens for hours about the same recurring problems? Who carries the emotional burden of your friend's life, while your own successes and struggles barely get a mention? In romantic relationships, did you fall into the role of the fixer, the healer, the stable rock for a chaotic partner, believing your love could mend their wounds, only to find you were becoming a wound yourself? This pattern of self-abandonment is often reinforced. You were praised for being the good child, the understanding friend, the low-maintenance partner. Every time you suppressed your own needs, you received a small hit of validation. Your identity became foreclosed, locked into this role. Your purpose, you were taught, was your utility to others. And so you wore your exhaustion like a badge of honor, proof that you were a good person who was caring enough to suffer. But here is what Jung found so remarkable. While your conscious mind was busy serving and sacrificing, your unconscious mind was doing something else entirely. It was taking notes. Imagine your psyche has a black box flight recorder like those found in airplanes. It is always on, passively, silently recording everything. Not just the obvious data, but the subtle, atmospheric data. It was logging every broken promise, every subtle eye roll when you expressed a need, every time a compliment felt like a transaction. It was recording the shift in someone's tone when they wanted something, the way their eye contact would break when they weren't being truthful. Your conscious mind, wanting so desperately to believe in the good in people, would override this data. It would make excuses. They're just stressed. They didn't mean it that way. They've been through a lot. But the black box just recorded. It held the raw, unedited truth. It was building a vast, detailed archive of the patterns of those around you. You held this detailed map of everyone else's psychological landscape, but chose again and again to get lost in it with them, hoping this time they would find their way. This created what Jung called a dangerous psychological split, a conscious self committed to service and an unconscious self holding an explosive library of suppressed truth, waiting for the one event that would force you to finally open the files. This delicate, damaging balance is always inevitably shattered by one thing: profound betrayal. Not a simple disappointment, but a soul-level betrayal from someone you had protected and loved, often at your own expense. A partner's long-term infidelity discovered after you spent years managing their emotional instability. A parent systematically undermining you to other family members after you served as their confidant for decades. A business partner embezzling funds while you worked tirelessly to build your shared dream. What makes this moment so cataclysmic isn't just the external act. The truly shattering blow comes from the internal recognition. You knew. Your intuition screamed at you. That knot in your stomach when they gave a vague answer. That flash of doubt you brushed aside as not being trusting enough. It was the truth trying to save you, and you silenced it. You chose to be understanding. You chose to give the benefit of the doubt one too many times. In that moment of discovery, you realized you were addicted to hope. The hope that they would change, that they would see your worth, that your sacrifice would eventually be rewarded. And you see with sudden, brutal clarity that you betrayed yourself to maintain your fantasy of who someone else could become. This self-betrayal is the final cut, and in that moment, the illusions shatter. You don't just fall out of love, you fall out of denial. Jung called this the withdrawal of projections. You stop seeing people as you wish they were, and for the first time, you see them exactly as they are. And there, in the rubble of your shattered hopes, you find a terrible, beautiful clarity. If this moment of shattered illusion speaks to a part of your own story, take a deep breath. You are not alone on this path. To honor this moment of recognition, we invite you to pause and simply write, "I am done," in the comments. It's not an act of aggression, it's a declaration of truth, a signal to yourself and others that you are ready for the next stage. When the illusions collapse, everyone expects the empath to break down, to rage, to weep, to fall apart. But they don't. Instead, something far more terrifying happens to those who rely on their dysfunction. The empath becomes quiet, calm, and completely indifferent to the games that used to control them. Think of it this way. Their emotional ecosystem was built on your reactions. Your anger was something they could engage with. Your tears were something they could soothe, making them feel like the good guy again. Your pain was a form of connection. It was all a familiar dance. But indifference cuts the strings. The puppeteer moves their hands, but the puppet no longer dances. This is what creates panic. Family members try to provoke the old reactions. Partners try to bait you into a familiar fight. They need your emotional energy, even negative energy, to feel centered. When you offer none, you are withholding their supply. They don't know who they are without your reaction to define them. The empath has simply unplugged from the emotional matrix. So what is this new untouchable state? This is the core of Jung's discovery. It is the integration of the shadow. Every empath carries a shadow self they've been taught to deny. Ask yourself, what parts of you have you labeled bad or selfish? Is it the part that desires a quiet evening alone instead of answering a call? The part that wants to say no to a request without feeling guilty? The part that dreams of pursuing a personal passion that serves no one but your own soul? And that is your shadow. It is the repository for all the perfectly normal human needs you were taught to suppress in order to be good. But Jung understood the truth. This shadow isn't evil. It is your survival instinct. It is your psychological immune system. It is the part that says, I matter too. The profound betrayal acts as a catalyst, forcing you to finally turn around and embrace this shunned part of yourself. The merger is a sacred act of psychological alchemy. The compassionate light of the empath merges with the self-preserving dark of the shadow. Light without shadow is flat and naive. Shadow without light is oppressive and cynical. But together, they create depth, wisdom, and resilience. You don't become a monster, you become whole. You become an empath who still feels everything, but now consciously chooses where to direct that feeling. This is not selfishness. This is the sacred act of self-preservation, finally being honored. This internal shift immediately creates external ripple effects that redesign your entire life. At work, the person who used to absorb everyone's stress and volunteer for thankless tasks simply stops. When a project is failing due to a colleague's incompetence, you no longer jump in to save them. You document the facts, fulfill your own duties with excellence, and allow consequences to land where they belong. The office gossip circle finds you unresponsive. Manipulative managers who relied on your can-do attitude to exploit you now face a calm professional who quotes their job description. The dynamic shifts from you being useful to you being respected. With family, this is often the most difficult theater. You were likely programmed from birth to manage the family's emotional temperature. When you stop, expect an extinction burst. The manipulative behaviors will likely get worse before they stop, as the system frantically tries to pull you back into your old role. The guilt trips intensify. But the awakened empath sees these tactics for what they are, not genuine expressions of hurt, but desperate attempts to regain control. You learn to hold the line with a calm, "I'm not discussing this," and you end the conversation. Slowly, excruciatingly, the system either adapts or you create a healthy distance from it. In romance, the change is absolute. You stop being attracted to projects. Your attraction shifts from potential to presence. You become drawn to people who have done their own work, who possess emotional stability, and who value your peace as much as you do. You stop being a savior and start being a partner. For those in existing relationships, you stop explaining why certain behaviors are hurtful. You state your boundary once. "If you speak to me that way again, I will leave the room." And then you do. The relationship either evolves into one of mutual respect or it ends. And if it ends, you feel not devastation, but the profound relief of a cage door swinging open. As this integration solidifies, the empath develops abilities that make them seem, in Jung's words, psychologically invincible. Your body becomes a highly calibrated truth detection system. It's often called somatic intelligence. You'll feel a knot in your gut when someone is being deceptive, a tightness in your chest around an energy vampire. You learn to trust these bodily signals implicitly. This leads to the empath's mirror effect. Inauthentic people rely on a shared social script, a collective illusion of niceness. Your quiet, grounded presence doesn't play along. Your clarity pierces that illusion. It makes them feel seen in a way they find deeply uncomfortable. They feel exposed without you saying a word, and they will naturally retreat. Conversely, authentic people, those comfortable with truth and vulnerability, will feel incredibly safe and relaxed in your presence. Your social circle edits itself, almost automatically. You are no longer a victim of your empathy. You are the conscious director of it. You have become a sovereign individual. The empath who stops caring hasn't lost their humanity. They have finally and fully claimed it. They haven't become cold. They have become conscious. They haven't stopped loving. They have learned to include themselves in the sacred circle of their own love. This journey from shock absorber to archivist, through the fire of betrayal and into the integrated power of the shadow, is the hero's journey of the sensitive soul. It is the victory, not over others, but over the cultural conditioning that taught you your worth was measured by your capacity for sacrifice. The world does not need more self-sacrificing martyrs. It desperately needs more conscious, sovereign individuals who can feel deeply without losing themselves. People with compassion and wisdom, people who know how to protect their own wellspring so they may offer a drink to those who are truly thirsty, rather than having it drained by those who would only waste it. So if you have walked this path, if you have felt that silence descend, welcome to your awakening. You have earned this transformation through every tear you cried in private, every time you bit your tongue to keep the peace. The peace you now feel is not a symptom of a flaw, but the trophy of a war you have finally won. You are finally free. If this deep dive into the empath's journey has illuminated your own, I invite you to subscribe to our channel. We will continue to explore these quiet corners of the human psyche together. And in the comments, I would be honored if you would share one specific feeling or memory this video brought to light for you. Not for public judgment, but as a shared testament in a community of people who understand. Reading these stories helps us all feel a little less alone. Thank you for watching.